this is not, it's wajib to do this. It's if you don't, if somebody says, look, I don't feel comfortable with this, that's perfectly fine. It's not a problem. Go to a grave of a pious person, give them salam, recite some Quran for them, donate it to their souls. And if you feel comfortable, you can say, oh Allah, for the blessing of this, oh Allah, make dua there, meaning because it's a blessed place. And if you feel a bit more comfortable, you say by the status of this person. And then if some people feel strongly, they can follow the other opinion. Now, I spoke to some scholars. They said, look, some scholars, Sunni scholars say, this issue about calling out to the deceased person from a distance and also by the grave, should the common person be encouraged to do this? And a number of scholars, like for example, Sheikh Abdul Malik al-Sa'di, I believe, Iraqi scholar, very, very well respected, very much loved by Sunnis of Iraq, really God-fearing scholar. He said he doesn't say calling out to a deceased person, wali, is shirk, but he says you shouldn't do this because it causes confusion, it may cause difficulties for people as well. They make it the wrong idea. Likewise, some other scholars that I respect, they said for the common person, probably just best to avoid telling people to go to graves and ask the deceased person to make dua. It might cause difficulties. So they don't say shirk. They may practice it themselves, you see. For themselves, they might practice it. But they say, but if I were to make an open announcement to people, some people may understand, others don't. For example, you get people coming to this masjid, they don't know how to even walk into the mosque. I saw people just last week coming in with shoes on. They don't, and they look like Muslims, I assume. So it's a very fine balance there. So you have scholars who practice it. I know one scholar who practices it himself. He practices it himself and said it's permitted. But here's advice. He said to me, for advice for the common person, just avoid asking a deceased person for dua. He said avoid it. That's his position. Indian subcontinent ulama, I don't know what they say. They might be a bit more strong on this position and say, no, we will tell people that they need to make dua. I don't know what they say, but I'm saying there's ulama who are quite very balanced. They understand the nuance of this. They practice it themselves, but they might say for the educated student of knowledge, they can practice this. Okay? Salafi Wahabi School, just to finish off now, the final slide. What does Salafi Wahabi School say? They do regard it as shirk. This is what Ibn Abdul Wahhab says in Mufid al-Mustafid. He said, reflect on his words regarding a person who calls upon a prophet or a wali, such as they're saying, O Sayyidi Fulan, help me, and it's like, such a person is asked to repent. They either repent or they are executed. So I'm still waiting, inshallah, for lecture 1, some responses. We went very easy on lecture 1. There were many, many quotes that we could have presented. I know people want to talk about Tawhid and Shirk. Let's start with your teachers first, your teachers that you admire, called Mujaddid. Let's work down. Let's work down to Shah Waliullah. We'll go to Anfasul Arifin. The early Hadith scholars can talk about Anfasul Arifin as well. But you see there, you saw Shaykh Abdul Haq approach, and you see what this means. What does this mean? You saw that this is just extremism. And the Salafi scholars who do try to do this interpretation where people are confused by who? You know what they mean by confusion? What they mean by confusion is people are confused that people like me or like other people who are more learned than me are telling people that there's a difference of opinion or there's some evidence for asking a deceased person, Prophet, or others to make dua. Because of that, you can't make takfir of them. And I said before, I reiterate again, a number of the Salafi Wahabi scholars said that's not an excuse, that's not an interpretation. Some of them come up with this argument because they realize this is a problem. If we follow this as it is here, as the early Wahhabi scholars say, then we have to make takfir of so many people. Takfir of so many people. And the problem now is you've got well-meaning people, sincere, God-loving people, love the Prophet ﷺ. They don't want to do shirk, but they've been fed this misinformation. That's why, look at how many Sunni ulama we always quote the madhabs. When they talk, they don't quote madhabs, really. They will cherry pick here and there, cherry pick. And then sometimes, even when they cherry pick, they misrepresent the view of certain people as well. So it's very important. And what if they take someone now, and then you get the stubborn some people are already stubborn and say, yes, they did commit shirk. So what does that send? What does that send to young? What message does that send to young people then? The vast majority of Muslim Ummah were committing shirk for centuries. The great figures of the subcontinent, Nigeria, North Africa, Middle East, Arab world. Remember, in the first lecture, we looked at that fatwa which said that the Arab world, people committed shirk, which made their blood halal because of these kind of things. What's been happening for 1,000 years then in Islamic history? That the whole Muslim world was misguided, generally speaking. But they won't say that explicitly because they know it sounds ridiculous. The four Sunni schools of law are misguided. All these people committing shirk, these great ulama, imams. They won't say that explicitly because they know it sounds. Because the person will say, well, that doesn't sound right. How's that possible? And then how far is someone to, from this? So when you get into the mind of people that the majority of Muslim scholars were misguided, committed shirk, then the next step, you know what happens next? That they can do all sorts of things. That's what, and then you see that happening in the Middle East at the moment now. It's out of control. And that's why certain Arab governments now, even though they were supportive of Salafism or accommodative, now they're kind of realizing that the knock-on effects of these shirk, teachings on Tawhid and shirk are very, very dangerous. So just to summarize, see, this is the balanced view we're presenting. We're not saying that is wajib, recommended. We say there's difference of opinion. We presented the evidences of the scholars who said it, and there's great figures who do it. You follow what you feel comfortable with. Obviously, we don't go around telling that common person, that scholars that we respect. Obviously, I said the Indian subcontinent, I don't know, but Arab Sunni ulama who practice this don't really, within their close circle, advise, tell people that it's okay, but generally don't. So that is the balanced view. That is the mainstream classical Sunni view. If somebody wants to refute that, Bismillah, go ahead. But you have to make takfir of so many people. And the evidences for permitting it are very strong as well. They're very, very strong as well. And personally, for myself, for me, it's very clear that, the ulama that were called on did actually appear and help them. That's for somebody to argue that people were just imagining things and it was a jinn that came in the form of the sheikh. That's just ridiculous. Because if it was one incident, you could possibly argue that, but this is multiple. We went from Nigeria all the way to India, and great ulama who know hadith who are practicing this, which shows that it is possible. It is possible. It does happen. That's what I wanted to say. That's summary, and the purpose of this is that for people to hold back from takfir, making scholars innovators, because what happens and the knock-on effect is, and this is, I'm just going to be very blunt now, Salafi mosques will not host Arab Sunni ulama from the four madhabs. Why? The reason is because they regard them to have bid'ah in their aqeedah because of these kind of issues. Shafi'i scholars, Habib Zain, I'm not giving you names now, but you don't know. Habib Zain, great Shafi'i scholar. If you came to High Wycombe tomorrow, which masjid would he come to? He would come to this masjid. He can't go to another masjid. Why? Some other masjids? Because they regard him as being an innovator. The top Shafi'i scholar of the world today, one of the top. Can't. And then you just do it for the Hanafis. Sheikh Muhammad Awama from Syria, Hanafi scholar. He comes today, he would come here, alhamdulillah. He wouldn't go to a Salafi masjid. Why? High Wycombe or outside High Wycombe? Forget the town, people get upset then. But that's just the case, and there's something to people to reflect on. What kind of, what's going on here where the Sunni schools now, the leading figures, can't come to your masjid? Why? Because they got problems. So what does that say about you and about the Sunni schools? But alhamdulillah, that's our point. And then, so stop making, labeling people kuffar, innovators. We can't make takfir of you at the moment because you've got a bit of confusion, has confused you about it. But once that confusion is removed, then you have to make takfir. And then accept that there's a valid khilaf on this, there's difference of opinion. Then those scholars had that position and have good opinion of these ulama as well. That's alhamdulillah. That's inshallah. I hope that's sufficient for at least, and that's what we need for unity. Inshallah, that's what we need for unity. Accept that there's a valid difference. Whether the Salafi school, Wahabi school can accept there's a valid difference is another matter. Alhamdulillah Rabbil Alameen.